Now, I just want to welcome Nicola. Nicola Ayrton is the Public Program Manager at the National Army Museum, and she has an amazing case study she's going to showcase for us on the Chelsea History Festival. Throughout the day, we've discussed different ways to incorporate digital strategies. Nicola has done it and done it very successfully and has the data to back it up. So we're going to basically have our last talk end on a high note with a success story from the National Army Museum. Nicola, you're on stage.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that okay.
All good.
Perfect. So at the National Army Museum, we have run a wide range of public engagement activities. So from lectures to panel discussions, workshops, tours to artist in resident programs. And 2 weeks before the UK went into national lockdown, we ran 2 of our key events that we were launching as part of a wider programme for the museum. The first was going to establish our year-long Lates programme, where we had plans to engage a younger Love to Learn audience, experience seekers who loved nothing better than to seek new museums and activities and to learn something new. This event was based around our exhibition called Tribute Inc., all about tattoos in the army. We had life drawing with a Chelsea pensioner and the farriers of the Queen's Mounted Bodyguard of the Household Cavalry, ink cocktails and an army rock band, yes, that is a thing, and body art, tattooing, panel discussions, amongst much more. We reimagined the exhibition and dug deep into exploring all of these things. The second was a targeted campaign of our Spotlight series. The museum would have a takeover on different themes and regiments and corps, linking the past to the present and showcasing the National Army Museum's collections and the story of the British Army. On the weekend before lockdown, we had the Army diving team, minesweepers, regimental museums. They were all showcasing the best of their objects and, of course, a military band to top it all off. Then, as of the 17th of March, when the museum shut its doors to the public and everyone went their separate ways, the public programme team had a very big task on their hands. We went from 100% in-person programmed to 0 in one day. Our task was not just to cancel the events, freelancers, performers, speakers. We also had the mammoth task of refunding all of the tickets. But we also had the view of how do we as a museum think and act in a relevant way and stay connected to our audience when we physically cannot get them inside the museum. Now, this was not a question only faced by us as a museum, but near enough every museum and organisation. Of course, there was lots of digital content being put together so beautifully by our marketing and communications team, which was reaching those communities. We also had family activities to keep the children entertained through those long days at home. We also had our online collection, which the collections divisions were working hard on. So where did we fit in as live event producers that engaged with the public in person? Some of the questions we began to ask ourselves were, how do we give people the deeper dive of information and community space that they craved? And when did they even need it when they were spending every day at home? The online market was a crowded place. Everyone from the National Theatre to your yoga class around the corner was going online. Virtual events were becoming a thing of the present, front, right and centre on your mobile phone and laptop screen. And whilst it was important to keep that online presence, how did we transfer a public event to the virtual world? And how are we going to get heard amongst the rest of the noise? We were all trying to make decisions in an uncertain and unprecedented time. Gosh, I know we're all bored of that phrase already, aren't we? but it did also feel like a time with a huge sense of urgency around it. Everyone agreed that whilst it was important to look at rescheduling some of these events, not all events could be transferred to a virtual online space. There wasn't the need to create content for online content's sake. We were not lifting and shifting what worked in the physical realm to a virtual one. Different programming content and audiences would dictate the new format of the event and which tools what we would use for dissemination. You do what is best to suit that audience base and the content to make that event. But what people were really after and what people were really missing was that atmosphere that you get from a physical event, that buzz and an experience. And that is really hard to replicate in the virtual world, no matter how hard you try. We also realized that we couldn't directly jump into creating immersive or highly technical projects without doing the due diligence of understanding the nuanced desires and needs of our audiences and the communities we served. We needed to strategically plan and resource a core program and then look to create common experiences. Now, by core, I mean that those experiences that the National Army Museum was known to or must provide. And by common experiences, I mean that those events and activities that we could take an increased risk and test because we had the foundations of information that we could then build upon. So after we cancelled everything, we realised that we had our audiences had a void that needed filling. Here at the museum, we had a very large scale plan for our VE Day weekend, complete with a festival feel. The wartime weekend was going to transform the museum into an immersive experience for members of the public. Who doesn't want to be transported back to the 1940s and forget the day-to-day life struggles of lockdown? After all, everyone was comparing the nation's true grit with the Blitz spirit. We needed to reconnect with our core audience needs. What were we known for? How do people engage with us? And how do we make the festival pipe dream a reality? We knew this landmark anniversary of 75 years since victory in Europe would be a great starting point to resonate with our audiences. But not only thinking externally, we really needed to think internally too. How do we ensure we have the internal skills to create the necessary experience to cater for these audiences? And how do we make this a sticky experience or as our foundation blocks to then build upon? We knew internally, as well as being a very small team, that we also had a lot to learn about digital, but we also reflected that we had this opportunity of the pandemic to learn. The time was a blessing, and we knew that we could rise to the occasion to make this work. We then set about and researched platforms that would give us the best experiences, and we worked collaboratively across teams. The internet is a vast space, so how could we make our mark and hold our own against all of the other key players at a time of national significance? We knew that the collections we held to tell this story were of great importance to the nation, but how could we get people to engage with our corner of this digital space? Crucially, I then had the idea that we should join forces with our tri-service museums. We formed a partnership with the Royal Air Force Museum and the Museum of the Royal Navy. We had shared goals, shared experiences, shared audiences, and shared stories. We would be able to connect with these audiences and have a much bigger impact in the nation's story. Us joining together gave us a bigger audience to amplify our message to and to support each other at a time of upheaval and uncertainty. I think as museums, we don't talk enough about collaborating together as much as we should and the huge impacts that it can have. And in just over 3 weeks, from various bedrooms, home offices, kitchen tables, the virtual VE Day Festival was born. I think it is really important for us to remember the circumstances in which these things were created and how new skills and tools were learned. I then had to make the decision of what part of our physical plan could be transferred to online. We had to work with speakers, dancers, live interpreters to choreograph and plan our live stream events would work. We then had to get to grips with all of this new technology ourselves, and then teach the rest of the team, both internally and externally too. The digital engagement and audience awareness drive-in to the museum's platforms was really strong, with huge numbers reached on social and page views on the website. We had just under 20,000 video views watched, including live streamed events. We had over 1.7 million social reach across all of the museum's channels. We had a spike on our website, which was double the number of sessions of any day in the past year, including remembrance and exhibition campaign activity. This was the only time the National Army Museum had seen this traffic to its digital platforms since the First World War centenary. Now, the National Army Museum's programme quickly developed off the back of this virtual VE Day festival. We followed this series up with the start of our new digital programme called Friday Insights. And this was a weekly lunchtime talk series that engaged with our core expert adult audience. The first talk commemorated the 200th anniversary of the birth of Florence Nightingale. We gave the Florence Nightingale Museum a platform to talk about their exhibition at a work at a time that they, of course, were already closed as well. The Army had just created the Nightingale Hospital in London, and Colonel Ashley Gorham, who had been instrumental in setting up this hospital, as he says, over a brew, came to talk to the public about this connection. So again, we were bridging that gap between the past and the present day, and it really resonated with our audience and further tightened the community that we were creating. We really started to notice trends with what our audience liked. We set up surveys and ensured that we engaged with their needs. Focused weekends of activity were starting to become very popular with our audience. Following the success of the VE 75 campaign, we were keen to mark the 75th anniversary of victory over Japan, the end of all Second World War hostilities in August. And so the VJ Never Forgotten digital programme was born, and this led to a new partnership with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission as well. We learnt to target specific themes in this digital programme to provide more structure to the weekend. Based upon what we knew was already popular with VE Day, we continued to develop the quality of our programme further. No longer were we satisfied with the home video. We wanted to up our game. We branched out and made pre-recorded films and interviews based around our collection. We continued to develop live interpretation and talks, but improved the standard of delivery and brought the development in-house under our direction. The heartwarming moment of seeing Sir Captain Tom Moore in conversation with fellow Burma veteran Joseph Hammond, who was based in Ghana. Joseph had also, inspired by Sir Captain Tom Moore, had raised an astonishing amount of money during the pandemic for the health services in Ghana too. They were so excited to meet each other. It was quite wonderful, actually. They spoke about their shared service and their shared experiences. And it was a truly wonderful creation to connect these two veterans via the means of technology, especially both of them being in their late 90s. And it really went down a storm with our audiences. But why did all of this work? For us, it was the regularity. We do continue to run these focus weekends of activity, and they're consistently popular with our audience, with identical figures, even in August when things were unlocking. We had a diverse range of speakers and events. We changed the way that it was usually delivered, and we switched up the delivery methods of both hosting and digital delivery. And we quickly saw that community rise and develop. Many audience members commented how it was the highlight of their week, that they needed their military history fix, and we were their lifeline. We started to gain a very loyal following from all across the world, with a particular shout out to Kevin in New Zealand, who joins at 11 p.m. every Friday. Our chat box was filled with messages of our regular audience checking in on each other from near and far. Our traditional in-person audience, mainly retired folk, who we all knew personally by their names when they were coming into the museum, would join in consistently. And for us, it really was rewarding to see them join in online. And they too were proud of themselves for cracking technology. You're never too old and you're never too late, as some of them would email me saying. It was a welcome surprise to us that these people had overcome preconceived barriers of technology and really wanted to continue with us on this journey. Now, as we looked to the future, obviously, as all of us, we saw that there was an uncertain landscape ahead. Will we unlock? Won't we unlock? Open, close, open, close. I'm sure you're all with me that it was getting a little bit exhausting. A huge part of our programming, part of the year, is the Chelsea History Festival, which takes place in the autumn. Of course, we needed to start planning this a year in advance. At the time when most festivals were cancelling, given we had built up this body of experience in a digital world, we made the bold, very bold, decision to build upon the success of the National Army Museum's programme and utilise them to make the Chelsea History Festival virtual. This was only year 2 of the festival, and it was so important to us to keep this brand alive. We now had the digital confidence, and internally we had the digital literacy to really take on the Chelsea History Festival and all of the digital logistics that it had. This programme was made accessibly digital online for the first time. The festival had 3 phases. Part 1 was a digital pre-record of films, and this linked to key themes of our local borough. The second was a digital online only part, where we live streamed talks and in conversations. And our biggest challenge yet was the hybrid model of engagement of both in-person and online activity. Now, as the situation of the road to recovery unfolded, we still wanted to have some live in-person engagement and events, but understood that not everyone would feel comfortable with this. So at a time when we were focused on planning our digital delivery, we then had the issue of measuring chairs and making sure that the environment was COVID secure. So in this photo, you can see on the left, we have the online audience, and on the right, we have the in-person audience, all COVID secure. And it is fair to say that we did pull it off. We had the band of the Scots Guards performing for the first time since the pandemic, and it landed us the front page of the Times and other publications and lots of online engagement. We also had family activities in the Chelsea Physic Garden and the National Army Museum. We had a full walks and tours programme utilising apps to further enable social distancing. People were grateful not only online but in person too. We drove visitors to the area as a destination in line with what we could do during a pandemic. The National Army Museum had its busiest weekend since reopening, and an increase on 163% on our second busiest weekend last year. We reached a really engaged audience across the world, with visitors saying how much they enjoyed the virtual element, and they were just so pleased that they could attend and join. And we've had requests to continue to do this year. Now, in just over 11 days, we had 68 events and 75 speakers, and we had a total of over 25,000 digital visitors, and that was without the in-person engagement and the digital phase 1 of the festival. Now, the legacy of this festival, with reopening around the corner, we will further invest in new systems and equipment. And for us, hybrid models of engagement are here to stay. Excuse me. We have made connections with a global audience who have accessed the museum and our stories and our collection more than ever before. For us, we have reimagined what digital meant for us in 2020, and we laid the foundation stones. We achieved what we set out to do, which was to satisfy our core audience needs and develop our common experiences. But how do we achieve better and build upon further to try new things and experiences? What immersive experiences can we try next? Now we have a better understanding of our digital audience and our digital visitor. We can recognize the difference between those who walk through the front door and those who come online. We now have the time, energy, and resources to explore AR, VR, and allow those technologies that allow us more digital immersive experiences. We now know that we can reach those people that have a passion for the British Army and the Army's story. We can make those experiences relevant and real and what is right and bespoke for them. And understanding those doorways to the museum is the only way that we will be able to create those experiences and highlight where the tensions and frictions, where the audiences get lost, tuned in, or overwhelmed, or tuned out, I should say. And how can we as an institution stay real and relevant and find the balance and cater to all of these audiences' needs? The work of the Audience of the Future programme, led by the UK Research and Innovation, is really paving the way to create these engaging immersive experiences and testing them with large audiences. These projects are developing highly immersive technologies to people to experience live performances like never before. And this funding is really creating new ways for us to rethink the way we work with technology and bringing together storytellers, gamers, artists like never before. And the audiences are no longer going to be bound by this location, and the visitor experience is being enhanced like never before. So I think the future legacy of the COVID-19 pandemic has transformed, certainly for us, the way we as a museum and a sector think about digital. And I really do find the prospect of the way that we can rethink, re-engage our traditional and new audiences with our collections in museums and the wider heritage sector, and opportunities to be innovative, very exciting and liberating. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have a question from the chat, basically around differentiation. So how can we help people find our digital activities or be encouraged to choose our online activities when there's so much going online? So how did you stand out?
Oh gosh. I think it's really working and collaborating with not only internally with all of your different teams, but externally as well. So partnering with different museums and organizations to really enhance the way that you can stand out in a way like never before. And I think understanding, it's what we say in all of these conferences and, talks, but really understanding your audiences so you can engage with what they are interested in. Because I think for us, we struck a chord with our audience who obviously just wanted this military history fix that then, just spiraled and continued. And having that, integrated marketing campaign to support that was successful.
No, thank you so much. I think your case study shows how the hybrid model works and the loyalty you guys have, people calling in from New Zealand every single time. I bet every institution here would love to have some loyal fans like that. Thank you so much, Nicola, for joining us. Oh, wait, we have one last question. I'll make this one the last question. How much of your digital learning and innovation was possible to generate from standstill? And how important were external consultants for developing the digital engagement?
Well, I must admit, we're a very small team and much of it was just done in-house. We had very little external support. It was mostly done just from us teams talking and combining our knowledge together. And when I say public program team, at the time it was just me and one other person, my colleague Isabel, and we then worked very closely with our marketing and communications teams to really bring this digital program to life, but not much external support, if any.
Wow, I mean, that truly shows the hustle and working for a common mission, a common goal.
I was going to say, it's not without the hours that we've put in. And I think for a lot of us at the National Army Museum, we're very passionate about our audiences and the stories we tell. And we did put in a lot of hours to, which I'm sure we all have over the pandemic. And it's, yeah, it wasn't without its hard work, but we reaped the rewards.
No, thank you so much for being a pillar in this time of the pandemic. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank
So,
you.
guys, everyone, we have come to the end of our incredible conference today. What I would love for everyone to do is please give us your feedback from the day, whatever sessions you've attended. There's a feedback form in the chat, and this will allow us to help design future events that really suit your needs. I just want to thank every single one of you for coming out today, for sharing your knowledge, your insights, and honestly, your experiences, whether you're a museum, academic, or technologist. We are here to better the entire sector of culture. I think today we've learned a lot about target audiences, the range from simple digital technology all the way up to immersive XR and VR. And I just want to thank everyone for sharing this journey with us today.